Coming up on this week's edition of NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen.
Beef producers from across the country are here in Houston for the Cattle Industry Convention and NCBA Trade Show. We'll bring you some of the sights and sounds as this exciting event gets underway.
And now, NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen.
Hello and welcome to NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen. I'm Kevin Ochsner. Thanks for joining us as we bring you special coverage from the Cattle Industry Convention and NCBA Trade Show here in Houston, Texas. Although the convention kicks off today, it's not too late for you to join us. Walk-in registrations are accepted all the way through this Thursday, and you can even purchase a one-day pass if you just want to come for the day and check out the trade show. Now, this is a one-of-a-kind, can't-miss event, as thousands of cattle producers come together for a mix of business, education, and networking. We had a chance to ask some of our NCBA producer leaders to share their favorite parts of convention.
This is one of the highlights of the entire year. It's a chance to meet up with old friends, make some new friends, and see how your colleagues in the industry are working. It's a great time to get educated and, in addition, have some entertainment.
You'll also have the opportunity to visit with our well over 400 vendors on our trade show floor. You can learn about new technologies and new products that are available to help enhance the operation of your business.
The trade show is unparalleled. I think you'll enjoy walking around, talking to the trade show exhibitors. They'll have something to offer to you that you didn't know you needed. I would encourage you to attend a Cattlemen's College session or two. I know you'll learn something that you can take home and use on your farms or ranches.
The Cattlemen's College is second to none. I'd encourage you to take that opportunity and delve into some of those subject matters and get up to speed with some incredible technologies and information that's exposed there.
Several things that I'd encourage you to do. Go to a committee meeting. Our committee meetings, whether they be federation or policy, are open to the membership, and you're welcome to go see how our policy is made. One of the things that I tell everybody about NCBA is that when you serve as an officer and work together with our staff, everything is governed by our policies. And those policies are set in those committee meetings and then by the board of directors when the directors meet at the end of the convention. Go see how that's done. You'll see some real discussions about some very sometimes difficult policy issues, and you'll see how cattlemen come together from all over the country to make those policies.
And I encourage you to take part of the checkoff meetings where our $1 investment returns an $11.91 return back to your operation.
And on the checkoff side, so much going on in building demand for beef, and you get to hear about all those efforts and so forth and the results. And so it's very rewarding, and it's very, very important. We are a grassroots organization. The officers being on the officer team, I can tell you, we do nothing that is not set by the membership. So encourage everyone to go, immerse yourself in everything. I mean, you're there, go to the meetings and have a good time. The trade show is great. We have great vendors, and look forward to seeing you there.
This is a great opportunity for all the attendees to get to enjoy some warm weather and also get to participate in all the events that are taking place at this tremendous convention.
Outgoing NCBA President Jerry Bone spent the past year representing cattlemen and women all around the country. This convention offers us a chance to say thank you for a great year of service to the beef industry. Early last year, we took a closer look at what life is like for Jerry back home in Kansas.
Pratt Feeders in central Kansas is a place and a business Jerry Bone knows well. A Kansas native, Jerry started his career as an assistant feed yard manager and then moved to Colorado to work with CattleFax for 7 years before moving back to manage this feed yard.
Came here in 1982, August of 1982, and as a feed yard manager, When I got here, we had about 15,000 cattle on feed, and over the years, we were able to grow this facility to where it holds about 40,000 today. And then in 1989, we bought Ashland feeders at Ashland, Kansas. In 1995, we bought Buffalo feeders, Buffalo, Oklahoma. We currently have the 3 main feed yards with a total capacity of about 85 to 90,000 head. The focus here at Pratt Feeders for the most part has been to be a custom feed yard where we feed cattle for other people. Today, about 75 to 80% of the cattle on feed here are owned by rancher customers from various states around the country. And we focus really hard on being customer oriented. We've gone to an individual animal management system where every animal is managed to its ideal endpoint. And I think customers benefit from that, and profitability is improved because of that process.
While the cattle are impressive, the feed yard facility itself is too. It's unique because it was built on the site of a decommissioned World War II Army airfield.
During the war, the government built this air base, and the B-29 crews were trained here before they went overseas to the war. And right where I'm standing right now is the middle of one of the runways. This one's about 1.5 miles long from the east, or from the west to the east, and we have cattle alleys on both sides of this runway, and it's worked out quite well for our operation.
Though Jerry is retired from day-to-day management here, he is a part owner of Pratt Feeders and remains on the board. He owns cattle and continues to manage farm ground the company operates. He's proud of how Pratt Feeders has grown, and even more proud of how the beef industry has improved over the years.
I think the industry's done a very fantastic job of genetic improvement. When I started my career here, if we had a 50 or 55% choice in prime grade, we were really excited about it. Today, the industry's averaging on top of 80% choice. Carcass weights have probably gone from 600 to 700 pound average to more like 800 to 900 or maybe even 1,000 pound average.
A past president of the Kansas Livestock Association, Jerry has served in a variety of NCBA leadership roles. And as he takes the reins as the 2021 president of NCBA, he sees both challenges and opportunities for the beef cattle industry.
I think some of the opportunities that we see as we look forward here into 2021 and beyond is certainly beef demand has jumped up here. That's been a shining star even during the COVID pandemic. I think people are spending more time at home. They're learning to cook beef again. The beef product and quality is the best it's ever been. So I think that's certainly an opportunity. We think also the opportunity to grow our export market. I think even though the Chinese and us have some road bumps, their demand for high quality beef is going to grow. Certainly that's an opportunity as we go forward. I think some other issues that we're going to have to work on is sustainability and the consumer's concern about how animals are raised, animal welfare, the environmental impact that our beef industry has on the environment. I think the fact that the beef animal is an upcycler, that we take grass and rough feed and the majority of the life is spent eating products that are not edible by people and turning it into high quality protein will certainly be at the forefront.
Though he prefers to spend his time around pens of cattle, Jerry knows it's critical for cattlemen and women to have a strong voice working on their behalf in Washington, D.C.
NCBA has a lobbying team in Washington, D.C. that works every day interacting with government officials, senators, congressmen, and their staff to establish positive regulations and positive business environment for the beef industry. And so while we're out here feeding cattle and taking care of them and farming and doing all the things that it does to support these animals that we care for, we have a team in Washington that's working on our behalf, making certain that government regulation and laws that get passed will not hamper our industry and then hopefully will pass laws that are beneficial to us. For instance, opening up more export markets around the world will certainly be a beneficial thing that can happen there.
Building unity is a priority for Jerry, who wants to see state cattle organizations and NCBA pull together to create more opportunity for producers in all sectors of the American beef cattle business.
The state associations in the beef industry are, obviously they're a very important partner to NCBA, but that's where the rubber meets the road. They're the ones that are in contact with the individual cattlemen on a daily basis. And it's important to NCBA that we develop a very strong, positive relationship with every state affiliate. And I know that's one of the goals that we have going forward is looking at those relationships and how we can forge an even stronger bond between the state and national organizations as we work to protect the industry from government regulation, as we grow our positive impact on the environment. NCBA is working on a daily basis for the benefit of every member, and in fact we're working on the benefit for those who have chosen not to join us too. And so as we talk about membership, first of all, being a member of NCBA is important. Without that membership, we can't do the work that we do. The local member is vastly important to us, and so we spend a lot of time working to help them be profitable and successful, and in turn, if they do that, we're going to be successful as a national organization. I am very excited to have the opportunity to be the president of the National Cattlemen's Beef Association. I consider it kind of a crowning event for my career in the business.
And joining us now to talk about his year as president is Jerry Bone. Jerry, first of all, thank you for all your good work this year. And secondly, you've navigated some pretty challenging waters during this past year. What are you most proud of?
Well, obviously, getting the industry back on track after all the challenges that COVID presented to us. We started the year kind of slow. Cattle market was still pretty sorry the first part of the year. But as we've worked through, and particularly here the last quarter, fed cattle prices have rallied considerably, and so I think people can feel good that we ended 2021 on a positive note. Fed cattle were higher, feeder cattle and calves were higher, and we're headed in the right direction again, I think.
That's good to know. You had an opportunity during your year to talk to lots of different people from all the segments of the industry, all across the country. What are some of the things you learned?
There's good people involved in our industry. They want to succeed. They want to make a positive contribution to our economy and to our environment. But they got to be able to make a profit. And so that's been the focus. The vision of NCBA is to be the trusted leader and the definitive voice for the beef and cattle industry. And so that's what we're really about. And, I think we accomplished some things this year. Besides getting more negotiated trade done in the fed cattle market, we were able to prevent some tax consequences that would have been harmful to agriculture. We also were able to get a set of sustainability goals in place for the industry to strive toward. And so I think getting that message out, and it's been pretty well accepted. We were really tickled with the acceptance of that sustainability program that we've put out in Nashville.
So look ahead for a moment. As you look forward to 2022, what are some of the biggest opportunities for the beef cattle industry?
Well, I think first of all, beef demand is really good. It's record good. In fact, probably the best it's been in 30 years or better, both domestically and around the world. And I think too, as we go through the year, we're going to get our leverage back to the producers. The supply of fed cattle versus the packing plant capacity is going to become and get more in line. And you have to kind of maybe be a little bit nervous about the drought that's still around in the country and how that might impact us going forward, as well as some of these political things. This potential deal going on in the Ukraine and Russia could be cause us some problems, and you never know about another black swan event. Heaven forbid. We've had more than our share of those for the past 2 or 3 years.
Right. So we're ready for a great week here in Houston. What are you looking forward to, and what message do you have to those who may be watching at home?
Well, I would sure tell everybody that we're going to get quite a bit accomplished here this week. We're going to work on check-off activities as they prepare for a new year of getting authorization requests and getting ideas in place for how the check-off can help benefit beef producers. In the policy side, I think we're going to have, again, a pretty robust discussion in the Live Cattle Marketing Committee about marketing. Taxes and those kind of things are sure going to be discussed. So there's a lot going on. Come down and enjoy the warm weather if you're up in the North Country where it's cold. And those of you who live here in the Houston area, please come see us. There's still a chance to come in and register. But we're here and we're going to do business, but we're going to have a good time while we're here.
Fantastic. Jerry, thank you so much for coming, and thank you for all you've done for our industry. We do appreciate it.
Thank you much, Kevin. Thank you.
To keep up to date on all the issues facing cattlemen and women, and to help make a difference in the industry, why not join Jerry as a member of NCBA? It's easy to do. Just call 1-866-233-3872 or visit the website ncba.org. Still ahead on NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen, we'll continue our coverage of the Cattle Industry Convention and NCBA trade show, including a look at one regulatory issue that's sure to be a hot topic this week in Houston. That story when we return. Stay with us.
Are you ready for a better shot at profitability with a more consistent, more efficient cow herd? Then don't miss out on the maternal edge offered by Gelbvieh and Balancer Genetics.
Stayability and longevity is really a strength of the Gelbvieh breed. And, when these cows can remain in the herd 10 years or thereabouts, they return a lot of dollars to the producers.
Research shows Gelbvieh cows will stay in your herd longer with greater fertility and more pounds of calf weaned.
It's the ability of that cow not only to have that calf unassisted, but to own that calf, to stay right there with that calf, to do whatever's necessary to get that calf going no matter what. No breed we work with does a better job of owning that calf and making sure that she's going to take care of than the Gelbvieh breed.
For cow-calf producers, the maternal traits offered by Gelbvieh and Balancer Genetics are the smart, reliable, and profitable choice. Find out more at the website gelbvieh.org.
Did you know you can get reimbursed for attending cattle industry educational events? The Rancher Resilience Grant helps cattle producers attend valuable programs such as Cattlemen's College and Stockmanship and Stewardship training sessions. Local, state, and national events qualify for the grant, and successful applicants can receive money back to help cover registration fees and hotel expenses. To apply for the Rancher Resilience Grant, go to ncba.org and click on the Producer tab.
Once again, the Waters of the United States rule is causing concern for cattle producers. But you have an opportunity to speak out and let the Environmental Protection Agency know just how you feel. Here to talk more about this important topic is Scott Yeager, NCBA's Chief Environmental Counsel. Scott, thanks for coming back to the show. Didn't we cover this a couple of years ago? I thought we settled this once. Why are we once again talking about Waters of the United States?
It's a great question, Kevin, and the reality is we have a different administration running the government in DC that has a different view of what should be a waters of the United States. So the Biden-Harris administration is going through the regulatory process to create their own version of WOTUS, and that's what we're all talking about right now. So here we are again on the WOTUS issue.
We spent a lot of time a couple of years ago talking about this, but remind our viewers some of the specific risks that are posed to cattlemen and cattlewomen because of this potential rule.
So the WOTUS issue is actually baked into the Clean Water Act, which I think everyone would agree was a really important law that has protected our navigable waters across our country. Now the problem with WOTUS is that over the years, depending on which administration is defining it, it could create a really expansive definition of what constitutes a federally protected water. And if you get up into, as we saw during the Obama administration, up into these dry creek beds and these ephemeral features, we're talking about features that are all over cattle country. Now cattle producers are having to be on the hook to figure out, number one, do I have Clean Water Act liability? And if I do, guess what? The government can come after me for big penalties. I have to get permits and a whole host of other things that's going to require producers to go out, hire hydrologists, hire attorneys to figure out the whole process, and it's just not really how this law was designed to be. So we're trying to get some common sense back into this latest definition of waters of the United States.
So how can folks sitting at home make their views known to the EPA on this issue?
Well, I'm glad you asked that, Kevin, because the NCBA has a sign-on letter for individual producers to sign on to. All you need to do is go to ncba.org/policy, and the first link there is to our WOTUS sign-on letter. Now we're hoping to get as many cattle producers as we can to sign on to this. We've got thousands right now, and we're trying to get more. So producers should go on to ncba.org/policy, sign our WOTUS letter, and then we are going to take that and bring it to EPA Administrator Regan to show him that cattle producers are vested in this issue and want to make sure that he ends up with a definition that works for cattle producers.
And cattle producers' comments are important, but really this is an issue that impacts all of agriculture, isn't it?
It absolutely impacts all of agriculture. It impacts cattle producers. It impacts row croppers. it impacts everybody in the livestock industry and everybody in the specialty crop space as well. So it's certainly something that has brought together the agricultural community to work together to make sure that this administration hears our voice and creates a definition of WOTUS that works for us and also honors the fact that agriculture really is not supposed to be regulated by the Clean Water Act like a waste treatment discharge facility, right? So those are two very different things, and our point is, as they're going through this process again, to make sure they don't catch all these tiny features that could then end up regulating a cattle producer or a farmer, just like a waste treatment facility, and we know that that wouldn't work.
Yeah. So we've been talking about this as an executive branch issue in terms of the policy that is being written, but really, if I've understood correctly, there's been a recent court case that the Supreme Court will be hearing about WOTUS as well. Can you update us on that?
There is a recent Supreme Court decision to take up a case about WOTUS. It's called Sackett versus U.S. Now, this will be the fourth or fifth time in as many years as the Clean Water Act's been around where the Supreme Court is weighing in on just what is a WOTUS and what cannot be a WOTUS. And this all kind of pins back to the Interstate Commerce Clause of the Constitution and how far the federal government can go to regulate. So we were very excited to see the Supreme Court take up this case. Yep. It means we may get some finality and some final guidance from the Supreme Court on this issue that's been jockeyed back and forth between administrations for so many years. Yep. So we're very much looking forward to that. We're probably going to weigh in as an association to make sure that the voices of cattle producers are heard in that case. But we're hoping that the justices will provide a decision that will give some clarity and some finality to this issue that's been bounced around so many times over the years.
Well, you've got your challenges ahead, but thankfully we've got you and the staff in D.C. to represent our interests on critical issues just like this one. Thanks for all the work you do, Scott.
Thank you for having me.
Now, as Scott just mentioned, NCBA has created an easy way for you to let the Environmental Protection Agency know that you support clean water and clear rules. If you're in Houston, stop by the NCBA booth. Regardless of where you are, just go to ncba.org and click on the Policy tab to sign a letter that NCBA will submit to the EPA on behalf of the producers we represent. The public comment period ends February 7th, so please take a minute to sign that letter today and make sure your voice is heard on this important issue. Still to come on Cattlemen to Cattlemen, we'll visit the demonstration arena to see how education about low-stress cattle handling can make a real difference for your farm or ranch. That story when we return. Stay with us.
It is inevitable, like the rising and setting of the sun. Your gravel driveway will need maintenance. Drudgery? Never. Be the right person with the right tools doing the job the right way by watching How to Maintain a Gravel Drive Using a Box Blade with Hydraulic Scarifiers. Brought to you by tipsnotebook.com. When better how-to videos are made, we will make them.
Take advantage of the very best in Hereford genetics with the Sandhill Farms annual production sale Saturday, March 26th.
We've really tried to put a lot of carcass traits in our cattle. Ultimately, that's going to be a driver in price and profit.
I buy bulls from Sandhills because in the end, there's more money in my pocket selling the end product.
The Schultz family focuses on continuous genetic improvement of their Hereford cattle year after year.
I view everybody that sits in the seats at our sale as our boss. We want our genetics to get better every year. We've got to make the next set of bulls that the customer comes to purchase genetically better than the ones before.
Sandhill Farms, the brand that exceeds your goals. Find out more at the website sandhillfarms.com.
Welcome back. Safe and effective cattle handling can lower the risk of injury and improve the performance of your cattle. Those are two things that can have a real impact on your bottom line. Let's toss it over to Cattlemen reporter Kate Maher for more.
One of the highlights of the NCBA trade show is the live cattle handling demonstration arena. Here to talk more about that is Dean Fish. Dean, just a few days ago, this was just nothing but bare concrete floors, and now we're bringing in dirt and cattle. Talk about the excitement around that demo arena.
Yeah, it is. 2 days ago, this was concrete, and we brought in 30 truckloads of dirt here, leveled it all out. Prefert was nice enough to bring some panels and some equipment for us. This year, we're excited. We're tickled to bring you live cattle demos, which I think are the highest rated thing here at the trade show, or one of the highest rated activities here for people to do. But you'll have Kurt Payton and Ron Gill that will be demonstrating all types of different livestock handling stuff. There'll be a session where they'll answer your questions. If you've got things at home that you have questions about, we are kind of making a focus on going back to basics, trying to teach some of those fundamental things of animal behavior and animal handling and low stress stockmanship, and kind of bring that all together. And so Merck Animal Health was kind enough to sponsor our stockmanship and stewardship program again, and so this is their arena, and we're just tickled to bring you 2 action-packed full days of demonstrations.
You know, I've seen you guys work cattle all over the country at those stockmanship and stewardship events. I learn something new every time. It is fascinating. I could sit there all day long and watch you guys sort cattle. What is the value of having hands-on live demonstrations, especially in the area of cattle handling for producers here?
Right, you know, and a lot of times maybe you're not going to go home and automatically implement everything that you saw here, but if nothing else, it kind of puts a little bug in your head that, yeah, maybe there is a little different way, or maybe an easier way to do something, or something that's less stress when I'm working with my family, or, you know, something that's less stress and keeps those pounds on those calves, or those little key components that stockmanship all contribute to the betterment of our livestock operations. So being able to take a little piece of that home, then maybe going back on YouTube or seeing some of the great stuff on Cattlemen, some of the archive stuff, going back and studying that stuff, then you can implement that and kind of study up on that and take that home. And then, of course, we also have a regional tour sponsored by Merck where we go around the country and do some of these, in your backyard.
Yeah, and those regional events are so important too, and there's a lot of other education that goes along with those regional events. Talk about what folks might expect at a regional event if they can't be here.
Right, so at those regional events, there's usually a local focus. A local person is coordinating those, so they'll determine what are the local needs in that community as far as beef quality assurance, livestock production, and they'll cover everything from looking at the meat alternatives all the way to looking at predator control and different things like that. So they try to tailor those to meet the needs of the local area. But in addition to that, the core part of that is that cattle handling training that's live and hands-on, where, again, if it's where they use horses, we'll do it horseback. If it's where they're on foot, we do it on foot, and try to demonstrate some of those different techniques that work.
You mentioned that this is a popular event. The stands are always packed here at the demo arena all week long. There's another area too that kind of goes along with it, the chutes and scales. What's that all about?
So one of the really cool things that since I've been involved with NCBA helping here is I get to go to the trade show and see some of the different chutes and different equipment and things that, all help a cattle producer do his or her job better. Well, chutes are always something that people have questions about or how they operate. And so NCBA has provided an opportunity for 8 different manufacturers to show demonstrate both hydraulic and manual chutes. We'll actually run live cattle through them. We'll have scales underneath each of them, so vendors can also talk about their scales and the importance of record keeping and those things. But to have an actual on-site live cattle going through these chutes is really important, and being able to get there on the ground, see how they work, talk to the salespeople is a really, really added value thing that our trade show participants will get.
Yeah, sometimes just seeing it live just really brings it home for a lot of people. It makes it, they can see how they can put it back.
And side by side, they can get a comparison.
Sure, yeah, on their operation. Well, again, a lot of great information here. Everything you could ever need to make your operation better is right here in Houston, Texas this week. Dean, I'm going to be in the stands this week watching you, so look forward to getting back to basics with you.
Look forward to seeing you.
Thanks. The demo arena is set up all week and the trade show goes till Thursday. It's not too late to join us in Houston, Texas for the Cattle Industry Convention and NCBA Trade Show. Go to the website convention.ncba.org for the details.
Be sure to tune in to Cattlemen over the next several weeks as we bring you stories, education, and information from the Cattle Industry Convention. You can also follow NCBA on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram for live updates on all the happenings at this year's event. Still ahead on Cattlemen, we'll take a closer look at the Environmental Stewardship Award Program and its value to the beef industry. Stay with us. We're back with more from Houston right after this.
Cattle producers across the country work hard to care for their animals and their land. The USDA's Natural Resources Conservation Service is there to help. Find out how you can work with NRCS to develop a conservation plan for your operation. Find possible funding resources for implementing conservation practices, or get free expert advice on ways to improve your farm or ranch. Visit the website nrcs.usda.gov today.
One of the highlights of this year's convention is the announcement of the 2021 regional winners of the Environmental Stewardship Award. These are the nation's best cattle and livestock operations, and they're honored for their outstanding stewardship practices and conservation achievements. Here's a look at the 2020 national winner, the Beatty Canyon Ranch of Colorado.
Steve Wooten and his family are moving their Red Angus cattle through the red rocks of Beatty Canyon Ranch in southeastern Colorado. This 27,000-acre cow-calf operation has been in Steve's family for generations.
This ranch was purchased by my great-grandfather in 1929, and our family has been there 4 generations for Joy and I, and we're fortunate to have the 5th and 6th generations on the ranch with us, and our daughter, son-in-law, and our grandchildren.
The Wootens were early adopters of conservation practices. They've had to be, since this part of Colorado receives fewer than 14 inches of moisture each year.
This is beautiful land where we live, but it has some challenges. Water is essential, and it's very sparse and hard to come by in this country.
The land in southeast Colorado where we live is fairly rough. It's semi-arid. We have periods of rain, and then we have periods of drought.
We're in an environment where we've got a lot of cactus, we've got minimal growth of forages, and we have to plan continuously how we can stockpile those forages against an area that doesn't have an abundant moisture.
With limited water and grass, Steve and Joy realized that a low stocking rate and good fences would allow them to rotate their cattle frequently, giving pastures a longer time to rest after grazing.
We now have 36 pastures that we can rotate cattle through so that the majority of the ranch during the growing season, the cattle aren't on it.
The reason why we rest the pasture is that when the cows go through the ranch and then the pasture gets rain on it, then it will grow grass and then the cows come back to that pasture. So it's kind of a full circle.
We've been able to improve our drought resistance through pasture management. By being able to have more rest in our pastures, grow more forage for next year by not having cattle in there, lets us go year over year without having to make drastic management decisions.
Steve closely monitors and measures the available forage, and the challenge to provide sufficient water to the cattle is always top of mind.
It's super important to have water on each of these pastures, and we have a pipeline system that runs from a pump, and it's running several miles to water all the cows in the pastures.
Putting tanks and strategically placing tanks in different areas of the pasture have allowed the cows to go and graze areas that predominantly they might not have grazed because there was no water. Also, by spreading the water out, you don't get a heavy impact in one certain area.
Another concern has been the impact of invasive plant species. In fact, several pastures and riparian areas required extensive work after years of harmful encroachment.
Tamarisk had completely dominated the riparian zone of the river, so we took on projects and worked with partners to eradicate the tamarisk on us. The other element that's been encroaching over hundreds of years due to fire suppression is pinyon juniper. We noticed in the 90s that we were about half stocked on a lot of our pastures that were heavily encroached by juniper. So over the years we've been slowly using mechanical means to clear the juniper out of those deep soils that should be predominantly grass, but still leaving plenty of juniper for wildlife, for birds, and for soil holding in areas where erosion is prone.
That is amazing to see the after effects after you clear the pasture and how much you gain back the grass. You're gaining acres back, the grazable acres.
It's not always just talking the talk, but putting their money where their mouth is, and they do it. with their own boots on the ground. It takes time. It's not easy, especially with as many things as Steve and Beatty Canyon is a part of, but it's still important, and they make the time to do it.
Beatty Canyon Ranch is home to a diverse wildlife population, and the family's management practices are aimed at improving the health of the range so both cattle and wildlife can thrive.
The things we've done to improve the land and the water, we've seen great improvement in the wildlife. We've seen more deer and bighorn sheep and turkey.
At Beatty Canyon Ranch, stewardship and conservation is in their DNA, and the Wooten and Burnham families work together to carry forward a legacy that has lasted for generations.
I love what I do because it fills my heart. It gives me great pride to see my kids and my parents all together.
I don't ever wake up in the morning and not appreciate where I live. And just truly blessed to be here and to be part of this family and this operation. I do feel there's some big shoes to fill, but I'm willing to take up the challenge and carry on the legacy of the ranch and the family and pass it on to the 6th generation.
It's the best life to be with your kids and to be in the great outdoors and to see God's creation every day. The land is everything to us. It's who we are.
To say that I love this land is even not enough of an expression of how we feel about this, how blessed we are that the Lord has put us in this position where we can be here, we can grow our family here, that we can leave a legacy behind.
A longtime sponsor of the Environmental Stewardship Award program is Corteva Agriscience. Today we're pleased to be talking with Damon Palmer here at the Corteva Indianapolis facility. Damon, thanks for having us out.
You're more than welcome anytime, Kate.
Corteva has long since sponsored the Environmental Stewardship Award program. Why is this program so important to you all?
This program is really important to Corteva and our heritage companies, really because of what we're able to highlight through this program of what farmers and ranchers are doing to steward their land. So it's important for us to be able to tell those stories and recognize the great stewardship that producers are doing out there on the land. And that's why the program's been great, and we've been a sponsor for 30 years.
Yeah, and Corteva is really a driver, too, of the sustainability conversation happening within agriculture. These recipients of the awards just get better and better every year, don't they?
They do, and these decisions are very difficult. So we have the opportunity to sit in and listen to some of the judging and the comments. We don't have a vote, but we get to hear about all these operations. And it is a very, very difficult decision that we see the panel go through because the applications and what people are doing on the ground really is strong and gets stronger every year.
And really, so many producers are already doing this, so they really should apply to be a part of this program.
I would encourage everybody to apply. We know that farmers and ranchers are some of the best stewards of the land because this is land that's been in their family oftentimes for generations, and they want to leave it better for the next generation. And so they are natural stewards. It's just taking the time to fill it out and put down on paper all those things they're doing to improve their land.
Yeah. And this year at the Cattle Industry Convention and NCBA Trade Show, we're going to have the opportunity to meet 7 new regional winners this year. It's going to be a really exciting event. Talk a little bit about the event that happens.
Yeah, so the event at convention is usually great. And I came into the cattle industry about 4 or 5 years ago. I'd spent a lot of time in row crop. And I had heard about this reception, this optional reception at a trade show, and I thought, well, how well could that be attended? And it's amazing to see the people come out to support their fellow ranchers and nominees, and it's just great to see all the interaction and excitement around this award.
Yeah, it is fun to see current winners, past winners, and then people that are just there to really support each other. Speaking of the NCBA trade show, Corteva always has one of the best booths, hands down, at the trade show. It's always fun to stop by. You'll be back this year. What can we expect?
So we're happy to be in Houston and welcoming farmers and ranchers from across the country. And we will have a very good sized booth and a lot of options for ranchers to come in and talk with our specialists that we'll bring in from around the country to talk about how they can improve their farms and ranches using our products and technologies.
You really support the range and pasture aspect of beef production. What are some things that they can stop by and do and learn about how to make better use of their forages on their operations?
Yeah, so one of the things we'll have this year is a station where they can provide us some of the basic operational variables that they've got, and we can provide them an estimate of what the return on investment of some of our tools will be. Because sometimes when you talk about weed control, brush control, it's tough to boil that down to what does this mean financially on my operation. So we've got a great new tool that we can work with them on that, and they can see the true value of some of that control.
I've had the opportunity to be out on several places with you learning more about this from this side of the camera, and that's fantastic because there's so much value in the product that you offer to beef producers in supporting that. I love the Corteva booth because it's also a place for cattle producers to network, to see friends. It's almost a mini reception in the trade show. It's really just a lot of fun.
It is, and it's great because we've been there for so many years now, and so there is definitely the business aspect, but also catching up on relationships that we've built over all these years as well. I also have heard rumor that the famous margarita machine may be back, and so be sure and stop by. Talk to us about your operation, as well as catch up if we've got long-term relationships.
And I remember the grass cows last year were a big hit, so we're looking forward to seeing what's going to be at the booth this year.
The grass cows were very, very popular.
Yeah. Damon, thanks for all you do and for all Corteva does to support farmers and ranchers across the country. Really appreciate your time.
Thank you. It's our pleasure.
We'll be back with more Cattlemen to Cattlemen right after this.
Weeds will rob me of my investments. The weeds are not palatable to cows. They will not eat them, or if they do eat them, some of them may be toxic. So there's a return on investment by allowing there to be more grass available to be grazed by the cattle.
It can be tough to keep up with all the issues that impact the beef cattle business. That's why NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen is dedicated to bringing you valuable news, information, and education. The goal is to give you the knowledge you need to make the best decisions for your operation. So if you're looking for in-depth coverage of the beef industry and the issues that matter to you, don't miss Cattlemen to Cattlemen, debuting every week on RFD TV and on YouTube.
Welcome back. Putting together the 2022 Cattle Industry Convention here in Houston took a monumental effort, and the NCBA trade show alone requires months of planning and a few hard days of setup. Here's Kate Maher with more on these efforts.
And we're here now on the trade show floor as setup continues for the largest trade show that you'll ever see with all things cattle related. Joining me now is Lori Litticoat. She's the director of trade show and events for NCBA. Lori, there's a lot going on here. Tell us about what's happening.
Oh yeah, today's our move-in day for one of our largest events and trade shows here. We have almost 7 acres of exhibits, almost 350 exhibitors here joining us, and this is a busy day.
Really anything that a cattle producer could need to improve their operation, new equipment, improve efficiencies, learn a lot of education here. Maybe talk about some of the different things that we'll see here at the trade show.
Yeah, I often like to think of the trade show as the solution center of the convention. So we offer a lot of opportunities for learning. So we have the Learning Lounge, we have the Shoots and Scales Showdown, and we have the demonstration arena. And new this year, we have a thing we call Ranch How. And How is hands-on workshop. So everybody learns a little differently. So this is more of a get your hands dirty kind of a learning session where people can get hands-on. So we have that. That's a new addition to our learning component.
There's also a lot of networking that goes on here. I know the receptions in the evening are also packed with a lot of great beef. Talk about some of the product we'll be tasting.
Oh yeah, we do have, I believe it's now 10,000 pounds of donated beef products that we will be tasting during our receptions. Here we have of course, our welcome reception on the show, and that's from 4:30 to 8:30 on our opening day. And then every day we like to, sample some good beef and have a good time and network with everybody. So we have a reception every day, Wednesday and Thursday afternoon.
You know, it's really the place to see and be seen. The exhibitors bring the best of the best here for NCBA's trade show. And new this year, there's going to be some prizes given to our exhibitors.
Yeah, this year these exhibitors have really been outdoing themselves. So we want to recognize them. And so we're introducing a Best of Show exhibitor booth contest. So we have a group of experts coming in and from outside the industry actually that are going to go around, and they're trade show experts. So they're going to go around to each one of our booths and evaluate them in 3 different categories. And so we're going to honor those 3 winners. Actually, it's 6 winners. We're doing a champion and of course a reserve champion. You know, we're going to stick to our cattle theme. So we're having a champion and reserve champion Best of Show program.
Well, that's really exciting. There's no doubt, again, the trade show is the place to see and be seen and network and really just say hi to old friends from across the country. Lori, thanks for all your efforts and what you do to pull this together for our attendees.
Thank you.
And don't forget, it's not too late to get down here to the NCBA trade show here in Houston, Texas. Day passes for the trade show are still available and you can register right on site. Go to convention.ncba.org for all the details.
Still ahead, we've got a look at some fun things to do in and around Houston while you're here in town for the Cattle Industry Convention and NCBA Trade Show. That story when we return. Stay with us.
As a stocker operator, your job is to turn forage into profit. With the right implant, you can. Revlor G improves grazing performance for 150 days, the same length as the typical grazing period. And it's dosed for stockers' maturity levels, adding up to an extra 23 pounds. See why Revlor G is the #1 choice in stocker implants at RevlorG.com. A withdrawal period has not been established in pre-ruminating calves. Do not use in calves to be processed for veal.
We've been enjoying not only the warm weather here in Houston, but also the warm welcome the city has extended to us. Houston has a lot to offer. Here's Kate Maher with more.
Well, there's no doubt that Houston's the place to be this week if you're in the cattle business. And joining us now to talk more about Houston is Michael Heckman. He's the CEO of Houston First. Michael, thank you for your time.
It's a great pleasure to do this. We're really looking forward to the week.
You know, we have cattle producers and beef producers from across the country descending on Houston this week. What does that mean to the city of Houston?
It means a lot to be able to have activity and conventioneers and delegates to be able to come back to Houston. We've seen a lot now with the recovery from COVID. Just that economic activity and that sort of vibrancy for downtown, we're really looking forward to it.
Houston's a new city for us for this convention and maybe unfamiliar to some of our attendees. What is great to see and do down here, especially near the convention center?
Yeah, well, there's a lot to talk about Houston. Houston's a great destination. It's a big city. But right here near the convention center, there's plenty to do. We have a 12-acre park, Discovery Green, that's right on the front doorstep of the George R. Brown Convention Center, which is where the main hub of activity will be. We have 2 convention hotels that are connected by skywalk to the George R. Brown. We have Minute Maid Park on one side. We have Toyota Center on the other side. The Rockets will be in town during the convention, so if you're interested, you'll be able to walk over to Toyota Center. It's very walkable downtown. There's a lot to do. You don't have to get in a cab. You can go to the restaurants. Then just a short ride away is our museum district. So there's plenty to do here, and I haven't even talked about our food yet.
You know, I live by my stomach, and I always appreciate a city that has good food. I know a lot of our attendees do as well. They produce beef. They work hard every day to produce beef, and they come to town looking for a good steak. Talk about some of the great steakhouses that Houston has.
Oh my gosh. So we've got some of the best steakhouses anywhere in the world that are here in Texas. We've got the famous Pappas Brothers. We've got Vic and Anthony's. We've got Mastro's. We've got any type that you're looking for. If you're looking for a certain type and feel, but you come to Texas, you definitely do want to get a steak. If after you've had your steak one night, if you want to look for something else, there's culinary scenes from all over the world. Houston is the most diverse city in the United States, and our culinary scene is as good as anywhere there is.
Michael, one great thing about our event is we have so many folks that bring their families to enjoy as well. What are some things to do with the kids while they're in town?
Well, we love to hear that. So Houston's a very family-friendly town. We've got the Houston Zoo, we've got the Children's Museum of Houston, which Parenting Magazine named as the #1 attraction of its kind in the United States. And then if you want to get in the car and go a little bit further south, there's Space Center Houston, which is our #1 attraction in Houston, to see all about NASA Johnson Space Center, the history of it, and also where we're going into the future. So there's plenty to do, whether you come alone, whether you bring your family, to be able to see and do during the time that you're in Houston.
A lot of our folks are hoping to leave winter behind and be down here, and it's still not too late for folks to join us. What would you do to encourage attendees to come on down and check us out in Houston?
Well, I think you can see I don't have a big heavy coat on today, so it is beautiful. It's about 70 degrees here today in Houston. It's a great opportunity to be able to reconnect with folks, see a city that maybe you haven't been to before. We're so glad to be able to have all the members to be able to come here to Houston for the first time. Hope to be able to come back again. There's a lot to do. Houstonians are the nicest people that you will ever find. So to be able to come here into the welcoming, diverse city of Houston, come on down and check us out.
Well, thanks again for your time. Thanks for the welcome to Houston. Our group, we certainly look forward to enjoying some of that Houston hospitality and some of that good steak that you mentioned in just this beautiful area. Thank you so much for having us.
I can't wait to see everybody, and I'm looking forward to it.
While you're here in Houston, be sure to check out all that Michael talked about. It's going to be a great week here in Houston, and we look forward to seeing you.
Now don't forget, you can tune in to Cattlemen over the next several weeks as we bring you a lot of great stories and information from convention. You can also follow NCBA on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram for live updates on all the happenings at this year's event. That wraps up this edition of NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen. Thanks so much for spending time with us. We'll see you again next week right here on RFD TV.